friend. We just want to welcome you to our show today. And man, I'm excited about this because we have an individual with very unique experience that will surely be able to help many of you maximize your real estate investments by finding units that could be added places where you may not ever have thought of. And we're not talking about ADUs, but literally within your structure already, there may be ways to add units, to split existing units and make more. And so I'm very excited about this because that helps solve the housing problem, but it also increases your return on investment. So super excited about this today. And before we get started, I do want to mention that we have closed caption on Facebook. So if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on AOAUSA.com, you could go to Facebook, to the site we have there, and watch there. And we will have questions at the end, so hold your questions. There's going to be a lot of information that he shares. It will be like a fire hydrant, so get your rain gear on for sure. And also, I do want to highlight, there's a lot of different things about AOA. We have forms. You can call in and ask how to use them. We have tenant screening. There's a lot of different things that we do, a lot of tools that we can help you with. And one of them specifically that I want to mention today is AOA Digital. It's AOA's property management software. And this has just been a tremendous way for so many people to streamline some of their systems and keep track of rent, do online rental payments, whether it's in the online rental application that you're able to customize yourself and get that to people that are looking at renting your place. There's a lot of different things that I'm not even going to take time to mention, but that's available to you as a member at a discount. And at a discount plus 6 months are free. And so if you're a member, definitely you could check that out. Go to AOAUSA.com and there's a member benefits tab on there. If you click on it and go all the way to the bottom, you'll see it there. And it's anyway, so that's available for you. And I just think it's interesting what's happening in the market. We had LA County. The county's median price rose 15% and sales were down 17% in LA County. And in San Diego County, median price rose 20% and sales were down 21%. And so this is interesting dynamic that we have. Usually everything's correlated to supply and demand. And those are just interesting numbers when you think about it. And this could be stagflation. We'll see. We'll see as time progresses here. And man, if you're from San Diego, we had an amazing time on Tuesday. And if you missed it, man, you really did miss it. And there's this little piece. There's one little part that he shared that we're going to cut. We're going to make a little snippet for you, for everybody, and we're going to put it in the AOA member portal. And literally, he shared something that's been something that the tenant protection groups are using to really get your whole house away from you. If you're renting out part of your house, really just a crazy thing. But we're going to make a little snippet and put that inside the AOA member portal, and I just think that that's something, it's across the board, any part of the state that you're in. And so that's one little snippet that we're going to have from that time. But it was so good to be in person and to meet people. Next month up in Oakland, we're going to have Richard Beckman, so you'll want to definitely sign up for that. There'll be things that you see there. It's not going to end up online. So, and especially as you're looking at the seminars and the different events that we have, pay close attention to whether it's in person or a live stream. And so next week is a big week. And the last Tuesday of every month, what we do is we call our city council member, our assembly person. We're calling the the county supervisor. We're calling these different people because it's been forever that we've been under an eviction moratorium, and it's time to get out from under that thing. And so we're organizing, and we're trying to bring that water, so it's not just trickled and scattered out through the month, but a fire hose overwhelming each of these places with our calls. And usually lots of meetings are held at the beginning of the month, and so hopefully this will be a way that we can influence decisions that they're making. And on our political action page, we have some talking points, and we're trying to shape this as why this is bad for tenants, why this is bad for the community. So we have some talking points there, and we're going to put up a link for where you could just type in your address and know exactly who all of your representatives are. That's going to be up on the political action page in probably by the end of today, and that's aoausa.com/PAC. And anyway, so those are some things going on, and again, there's always fresh content here on the live streams. And so what you'll want to do is just go to the aoausa.com website, click on the seminars button, and look at everything that's there, but also sign up for the newsletter that's there on the site, and then that way you'll be informed every time that we have a new event that's posted. You'll get that. All right, so here we go. So very excited. This event is sponsored by Windrich Group, and you'll find out what they are all about, but they are really good with code enforcement. If your buildings if you have a unit that has been taken off the market because of code enforcement, they'll be able to look at that and tell you whether that was proper or not. He's really good at asking the why questions, and he can get into things. He's an expert, and so that'll be great for you. And also, so I'll just introduce our speaker now. He's the founder of the Windrich Group. He went to the Southern California Institute of Architecture, and he's a licensed general building contractor, and he was with the LA Housing Department, the Systematic Code Enforcement Program. He was with that program, and not only was he in there day after day and knows all the ins and outs of it, but he was a leader in that program. And so he brings really a unique set of skills and experiences that make him just like a national treasure, really. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you today Zoran Windrich.
Hello, good day to everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you to AOA for being here and supporting owners, which is a very difficult thing to do nowadays, to have a company dedicated to all their members. And I know I'm dedicated to the work that I do. And when Jeff and I started to talk about how do we bring this knowledge to all the apartment owners in the city, and Jeff came up with this idea, and it was like, oh great, that sounds awesome, let's start it. So as I was preparing for this, I thought, well, okay, so I gotta just cramp 23 years of knowledge into an hour. It's going to be difficult to do that. So rather than teaching you how to do this, I'm going to plant some seeds for you. And I want you to be influenced by this information to do something about it. I want you to look into your property. I want you to take an interest, because the upside, if you want to call it that, or the money behind it, is in the finding, in asking the why question. Let me tell you why I'm doing this. It's because I asked too many why questions. I asked too many questions. When did I do that? Well, when I was the first one chosen to start the SCEP program for the city of Los Angeles. I preceded 2 years of discussions, meetings, talking about the influence of the city helping apartment owners in maintaining their property, keeping it up to code. That was the conversation. Today, It's about $100 million a year benefit to the housing department. That's what that is. And you don't get that by teaching people how to correct their problems. You get that by being complicated, difficult, not easy to get answers for. And so that's what you're faced with. So I'm here to break that spell for you, okay? I'm going to try very hard to mention a lot of things, and I want you to take notes. And if things are not answered for you, and the questions that you try to send afterwards are not gotten to or answered, reach out to the apartment association or call us at the office. I'll be glad to spend 45 minutes, 30 minutes on your problem, where today I'm going to spend an hour talking about everything. So realize it's a time crunch, okay? This is not going to be very easy. So besides the fact that I spent this time in this department, from having been a rehab specialist, from having been a designer builder prior to the earthquake of '94, and then rehabbing the city, and then starting this, my why question got answered months after I started. And when I got fired, I realized what happened. It was because the why that I got fired. The why question was, why are we doing it this way? Why doesn't everybody be on the same page? That was 23 years ago. Today, 2022, we have the same problem. We have inspectors that wing it. We have inspectors that say things that they don't really believe or is not true. Who suffers? You, the owner. That's who suffers. So I'm going to even the scale for you, okay? We know what we're doing. But we only know what we're doing, and we're doing it collectively because there's a team involved in here. Okay, we have a top designer that she was so good, I met her in 2003, I had to marry her to keep her in the company. That's what I really did. We have licensed contractors in the company that have over 20 years experience each. We have retired code enforcement inspectors that left the department. They all know what's going on, but are they saying anything while they were there? Not like me, stupid me. I got booted because I complained, asked a why question. Well, that's the best thing that could ever have happened to me, because that unknowingly became my best gift. Ask the why question. And the why question is what I've been asking myself to get to the bottom of all of these issues that come from records, that come from interpretations, that come from what's possible, what does the code say, what does the code doesn't say. That's a gift now. So I'm lucky to be in that position. So I've surrounded myself with very, very qualified individuals. I'm going to name the team: Luigi, Christina, who's recovering from COVID; Mark, you may have talked to him on the phone. He's the one behind all of this and putting it together with Jeff, getting the details ironed out. Iris, you may not have met her, but every time we go out, Iris comes out with me and we document. She asks those innocent questions that I don't even think of. I just look at the details and the problems. Dom, the contractor, very gifted, very helpful. Vladimir, our assistant; Andrew, assistant. We have Bruna. We have Luigi, of course. And there's me. That's the team. Now, some of the past clients that are using their business model to do what you're doing, they're using this as a way to make a business, not just own an apartment, collect rent. They're doing this over and over and over again. And they're using this information to capitalize on the knowledge. Like, just for the sake of record, each door, we'll call a door to a unit, is worth $150,000. That's 15-year ago number. Today's probably even more. So $150,000 a door means every unit that you have is worth $150,000 minimum. Could be $250. I don't know, depends where it is. So this is very good information. So to my repeat clients that keep asking the question, I'll mention them briefly and I'll talk about it in detail. That would be Logan, who dedicated his business to the findings of our jobs or whatever we discover. Steve, who's also in the same business in a different profile in better neighborhoods. Daniel, Danny, and George, God bless you. After 20 years, came back again, needs more help. And Lewis did the unthinkable. He wants to tell his story, and I asked him to do that because look for Lewis, because Lewis is going to tell us how he did it, why he did it, and what a painful experience that's been for him. So enough of that. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. So the first thing I want to address is what was advertised. The roadmap used to savvy investors to increase the number of units of their property without a conventional construction addition. Point of reference, when I started this work, I never needed one of these, but now I'm here, it's been years later, and I need them to do this, so my apologies. So to investors that increase number of units, okay, so the main thing is to create a new unit within the existing footprint of the building. And I do have some plans that I've drawn to show you what that looks like. Several floor plans, the before and after. Those are all projects that are done and now are finished in construction. I don't have any photos at this moment. There's too much time to show them. We do it by reconfiguring 1 or 2 units and create an additional unit. So out of the 3-bedroom, 2-bath that you might have, we create a 2-bedroom and a studio. Easy to do, it depends where you split it, but you'll see examples of that. Or you have 2-bedroom, 2-bath, large units, and then the same thing, create a bedroom and a studio. It's easy to do. You're not doing an addition, you're just subdividing interior space. So the cost of creating a unit, $150,000 a door, doesn't require a footing most of the time. It requires some thoughtful planning. For instance, my pet peeve is never to put a kitchen next to the bathroom. Why? Well, you know why. Use the bathroom and you're cooking a meal. Those two just don't mix. So when we design stuff, we don't do that. And I've seen that so many times because it was convenient. Plumbing was there. So think about it before you stick a toilet next to the stove. Okay, bad idea. Okay. So converting a guest room into a rentable unit. Do you guys know what a guest room is? It's a room. Back in the 20s and 30s, they called them a guest room. Guests come, visitors come, they sit there in that one room. No bathrooms, no kitchen, just a room. And all your poor owners that thought, well, I want to be nice to the tenant. I like the lady. I don't want her to move. Let me just add a kitchen. Bad idea. Why? Because tenants are prompted and educated by the housing department and neighbors and friends how to get away not paying rent. One of the ways is to cite you and call the city on you to say, I think this kitchen is illegal. I'm not sure. Inspector comes, yeah, it looks like this is just a guest room. Yeah, it looks like there's no permits for a kitchen. Guess what happens? You get cited. And what else you have to do? Horror. The tenant lives there for free for months. They get money to relocate, to move to another place, if they even can move. And with COVID, it's a little more complicated. So they don't just rush out. You don't give them a check and they give you the key and you're done. It doesn't work like that. It's a lot more painful. I'm sure you've heard other horror stories. You can ask around. They are out there. And what's the other thing? Splitting space is the least expensive way to add more income to your property. And as I mentioned, it's because you're not creating a quote, an addition. You're not creating a footing. You're not creating the structure that supports this unit. You're building onto the existing structure. A building is built to hold 2 floors, 3 floors, 1 floor, whatever it may be. Adding a unit is not adding more weight. It's just adding another floor that's used differently. Same calculation and structure for that space as it would for the other space that was already there, called a bigger bedroom or living room, whatever it was, or storage. So that's the difference. So now the other, let's see, this are all notes here that will be brought. The cost of foundation, yeah, concrete rebar, expensive. Okay, we've covered that. Ways to identify units that can be split or added. Big deal here for you. You own the building, or you adopted the building as it is. How do you know that? How do you know what you have is legal, number one, and would that be a candidate to convert it? Would that be a candidate to split it? You have to have a thorough investigation of the records. Without records, the city lives by records. If you don't have a record, you don't have it, period. Don't let anyone tell you it looks that way. Like I had a client, no names mentioned here, there was an aerial photo back 40 years ago. I bought it that way. Doesn't work. Bought it that way, photos from 40 years ago, aerial from whoever, no record, no go. So what do you have? Nothing. And somebody will tell you about that. Keep in tune, because that's a big story, and I think it's important to be heard. And how many of you have I seen or heard or been involved with that are reacting to the findings of the city or another attorney or tenant or the neighbor, and you're caught holding the bag? Don't want to do that. So the first thing is to identify the density of the zone that your property is located in. The density of the zone means that it's zoned in such a way that allows so many units to exist on the lot. For instance, if your property is located on an R3 zone, let's use that as an example. R3 zone allows 800 square feet. It's a calculation. It's a division problem. The total lot square footage, make sure you include all the parcels, totaling the whole thing that you own, okay? Divide that by the zone. If it's R3, for example, 800 square feet is a number. Take that number, divide it into the lot. By right, whatever whole number that is, you get to have that many units. Now, if a building was built in the 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, sometimes the density isn't maxed out, meaning you can add more units, meaning do the calculation, and you don't have to beg for droppings from the ADU law that allows you to have a unit. But this is by right, so solve the parking problem, and you get to have whatever unit number that you can have. We've done so many of those that are undervalued from the beginning, and I'll tell you another story where the seller probably didn't want to see the show, because we're going to talk about what he did and how it benefited the client that hired me to do that. So, and there's a lot of jewelry out there, shall we say. So if, for example, if your lot is 10,000 square feet and it's R3 zone, this will allow 12 units on the lot. It's 12 point something, but always round down, so 12 units. If you have 8 units, 9 or 10 or 11 units, you can have 12 by right, and add on top of that the ADU that the state of California allows you to have today. Let's see, so the ADU within the parcel. So ADU in an apartment building situation is as follows. It's a attached ADU, attached, meaning built onto the building, connected to your building, if you have room. It can be within the building, convert hallways, convert bathrooms, laundry rooms, recreation rooms, large living rooms, subdivide it to create another unit. or it can be detached. In other words, you have a garage that was built in the 20s. It is deplorable condition. It needs everything. Make that the ADU. That's another one. So different ways, I guess, the ADU law allows you to have it. And other opportunities by right also exist. Okay, so a big problem that I see as an apartment building owner, you need to prepare yourself financially to do any of these things. If you don't budget yourself, if you're taking the rental money from every month and spending it for your other investments or personal needs or travel and vacations, that's great. Enjoy it. But you're not going to be able to do this because $150,000 a door requires you spending some money and planning and budgeting yourself to allow for this work to happen. Because once we start, it takes us a year to 15, 16 months of time from the beginning to the end. And at the end means plans are approved, start construction. And that's another spell of time. So it's not a quick fix in any manner that you can think of this. It takes time and it takes money. But first, most importantly, it takes your planning, the vision of having something. So to plan something like that, know what you can do before you start even thinking, how much money do I need? Well, you don't know how much money because you don't know what you need to do. And you don't know what to do until you find out what are your options, what you can do. Once you know your options, you pick and choose the one you want, and you realize the cost associated with creating that option. And then start. And you can stage it. You don't have to spend all the money for all the options. You do the number one option first, and you let it rest. You do the construction, let it rest, sell it, or jump on phase two, on the next option. What is that? There's always opportunity. You just have to know what they are ahead of time, okay? So the records, as I mentioned, part of the big preparing yourself is to know what the records show legally. And we do that through this assessment of get all the records, incorporate the zone, go to the site, and identify how do we get these units or how do we maximize, and there could be various ways to maximize. There's at least 4 different ways that we can add value to your property. It's just which one is the best one for you. And the best way to identify that is to have a report with this option listed. How many options are there? Which one is our recommendation? We recommend the easiest, cheapest, biggest bang for the buck first. Now, if it's layered in such a way that in order to get number 2, you need to finish number 1, that's going to be in the report. Because sometimes the state and the city, because the way the laws are structured, by you having accomplished a storage room first, and then phase 2 might be convert storage to ADU using the ADU law, right? So that's kind of like staging. So yeah, the clients that are not prepared to deal with the consequences, there are some clients, I won't mention any names. The building was inspected and cited by code enforcement 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And nobody questioned that. Nobody can question that until we came on board. We questioned that. We've confirmed that 3 of the units that were shut down were originally legal, had a permit. The problem was that the inspector that did the inspection, didn't really do the analysis deep enough to understand that those 3 that he shut down were legal, and the other 3 on the 2nd and 3rd floor are not, that he left because it fit the number. It fit the number of units, so he just did the math. This is easier, shut these down. This doesn't look really good because it's on the ground floor, so it must not be good. So illegal, shut them down. And I don't mean lock the door. I mean pull the plumbing fixtures out, take the stoves out, cap the gas lines in the wall, pour concrete in your drain line, shut off all the water to all the fixtures, the sinks and the kitchen sink, remove all that, and now I'm good. So he goes away, job is fine. Owner is distraught, sells the building, and the new buyer, I think I'll look into getting those 3 down. They look pretty normal to me, just new sink and new stove and fix the drainage and blah, blah, blah. But it's a problem. How do you get something like that over the counter? So it's finesse, it's strategy, it's planning, it's knowing what your bottom back support line is and why are you doing this. Remember the why? This is why was it shut down? Conveniency. It was easy. How did we get that back? Well, it took us a year, but we figured it out. We got it back. Not only did we get the 3 that were shut down called illegal, but we got 3 more. So total number of units, we basically on this property added 9 new units that were otherwise not units. There were guest rooms and no units. So like 0 unit doesn't exist, and we added 3 and we converted the guest rooms. The problem is to get 9 units online with all the amenities that need to be provided, air conditioning, electricity, plumbing lines, gas lines, all that requires larger pipes to carry additional load for the gas, electricity, and drainage and so forth. So that needed to be addressed, fixed, provided for the larger number of units. And that wasn't in the budget. So if it's not in the budget, you don't have a project. I'm sorry to say, the client that is facing this is not able to do anything because they weren't prepared to spend that kind of money. And they're looking at new electrical, and new electrical is anywhere from $200,000 and $250,000. You're getting 9 units, but to get the 9 units added to your existing approved units takes money. That's why I say choose your battles carefully, know what you're faced with, and yes, it's a big deal, but only when you're done. You can talk about it, you can think about it, but you don't have anything. And if you don't fix it, then you're living with a potential safety, fire, life, and safety problem. You're living with tenants knowingly that maybe they shouldn't be living somewhere. They can notify the city on a phone call, and they'll be coming in there identifying whatever the infraction might be, and you'll be faced with relocation. You'll be faced with paying back the rent, and to all the ones that are living in so-called unpermitted units. Okay, that's the law. That's the federal law and the state law. So yeah, but get a good attorney. Well, all they got to do is get somebody that knows half of what he's supposed to know, and they approach this. It's kind of a slam dunk for the the tenant group. So I don't want you to fall in that big problem area. So what's the other one? Another plan your budget. Entire conversion process and know what you're spending money into. One of the clients bought this property thinking, okay, it's been here 40 years. I have proof. There's an aerial that showed it right there. Don't really want to know. I just believe. So they put money in that so-called, I hope it's good property. So they put, 30, 40,000 to improve it, make it better. Granite, walnut cabinets, you name it. It was torn down. It was torn down because there was no way to save something that didn't exist. I don't care how you call it. You can call it storage. You can call it chicken coop. You can call it, oh, my grandmother used to live there. Whatever you call it, no records, no go. I watched him literally cry when he had to take a hammer, and he did it himself over weeks of time, because it's like, spending money for a demolition that you shouldn't have even had to put money into it, number one. My heart goes out to people like that, because it can be prevented. It can be identified. And then we can guide you through what do you do next, if that is the case. And don't put money into something that you're not sure you can legally have there, okay? It's really not a good idea. In fact, it's going to cost you even more once you find out. And then it's going to hurt, and then you're not going to sleep well, okay? So remember that one. If you remember anything, remember that. So having a problem like you adopt a problem and you're asking people, hey, contractors, you think everybody's the same, right? You're a contractor? Yeah, I'm a contractor. Well, look, I hire people. Me, as a contractor, I hire. Do you know how to do drywall? Yeah, I know drywall. You know framing? Yeah, I know framing. Do you know plumbing? I know plumbing. Do you know flooring? Do you know all that? Yeah. So what people say they know framing, meaning they know how to use a hammer, take a nail, and pound through the drywall. They know that. They know how to put studs together, nail them. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, do you know how to do it legally? Do you know how to do it correctly? Do you know how to frame it per the code? That's what I want. And when you hire a contractor and he's not licensed, you ask him, do you know framing? Yeah, I've been doing framing for 10 years. Okay. So whatever trade you're seeking to have help on, the answer is always going to be, yeah, I know that too. And I can figure it out. I can watch YouTube and, I'm crafty. I can do that kind of stuff. What I'm talking about is something a little bit deeper than that. Because any work you apply to a house or to a portion of the house without a permit, and it requires one, you as the owner is responsible for paying or adding that portion illegally. And okay, so you don't deal with it because it's only for you. That's great. But when you sell it, the buyer hires me and asks me, so what do you think? And what am I going to say? Well, his mother lived there, so that was a good thing, right? Yeah, and it doesn't look bad. It's not like it's ready to fall on his head, right? Right. Except my client, the buyer, doesn't want to be dealing with a problem that somebody else put together haphazardly over the weekend and be responsible for it forever. That's what happens. You're responsible. You're the owner. You hold the cards. You call it the way you want, but you're going to be responsible. And when the shoe drops. When is that? When you're trying to sell. Remember, that is not the time you want to be dealing with issues like that. Why? Because you want out of there. You have plans to move out. You have plans to go somewhere else. And what are you going to be doing? You're going to give credit. That's what happens. Because I'm asked all the time to evaluate, what does that cost to remove and make it legal? Well, shit, there's plans. Oh, there's deconstruction, demolition, and there's rebuilding and construction. Probably 4 times the cost of what it costs you to build it. That's the real number. And that's what you're going to be dealing with when you want to get on the bus or a plane or a boat, get the heck out of town because you have plans, and now you can't. You're going to be dealing with that. So give them 4 times the expense and lose money, and then, yeah, you can leave. Just give me that credit. If the buyer wants to deal with the problem. What if the buyer said, well, hell, I don't want this damn problem on my shoulders? No. I'm going to let somebody else do it. Thank you, I'll pass the deal. Next, now the seller has to disclose that this guy bailed because of a problem. Legally, that problem has to be disclosed to the next guy. So the next guy is aware of the same thing that the first guy bailed on. Now you have to disclose to, I guess, everybody now, unless you want to break the law. And all you brokers out there, how many of you are really doing that? Until you're caught, everything is fine. Nobody cares. And when you're caught, that's when it's a problem for everybody. So this is, cautionary information, I guess. So the way to cover yourself and know what you're getting is good, valid, approved, legal, is to whoever's going to look at it and give you their opinion, you get them to put their opinion in writing. Not doing it, I've done hundreds of these. They look great. Just like, it looks fine to me. Look, yeah, really, you want to spend that kind of money? All that is driven around money. And let me tell you, that is exactly where you want to be. You want to talk about that and pay for the report, because that report is going to spell out everything out onto the open, what you're actually dealing with. And the options. So if this report says, well, I can, you don't have to do, I can do an ADU all the time. Any day. The state allows it, city allows it, it's like a no-brainer. Why spend the money on this report? I have to spend hours, I have to charge you. Money well spent, because your options are more than just an ADU. You just don't know that because the guy that you're talking to only knows ADUs. Okay? That's all they can talk about. I have a client that was told, you can add that unit. He thinks he has 4 units. Mark, this is for you. You have 4 units, the city said so. But, excuse me, you said so. The city said, no, you don't have 4 units, you have 3. But I'll tell you what, the city says, we'll give you an ADU. That'll be your 4th unit. You can have it. Isn't that great? We're nice people. We're really here to help. And I say to Mark, ADUs, everybody gets an ADU. They don't care if you have 3 or 4 or 2 or 1 units on the lot. Everybody gets an ADU. It's a freebie. The state wants housing. These guys were so nice, they took one away from you that said you had 4. You believed you had 4, but who are you to tell them what you have, right? You're a nobody, except you have somebody, me. I'm going to help you. But here's the problem. You've already committed and paid for the plans to build an ADU, which is approved. You're like a doorstep away and a check away from getting that permitted. And I begged you not to do it. And thank you. Why? Because if the records show you have 4, you have 4 units. That's what you have. So for them to tell you, because it's not, certificate of occupancy is not there. Well, they didn't have them earlier than 1942. This is a 39-40 property. So certificates of occupancy didn't get created till 43. So if you don't know that, then you think, isn't that great? The city is really here to help me. They're going to give it to me. Well, they gave you something you already have. They just renamed it, ADU. And so you're a fool if you buy that. Don't be a fool. Not you, Mark. I know you're doing the right thing, but those other of you that are like Mark, that are believing what they're told, not only by the city, by contractors. There's good people out there, no question. They want to do good things for you, and they can do it physically. And they draw plans on the side. They'll even throw the plans in. Here, free plans, just let me do the work. You want to do that? You can. Don't call us, because we're not going to do that. We're going to look. We're going to look hard in all the options that are available to you by right. And of course, the gift from the state. But know all your options before you jump into some sort of agreement or some sort of freebie that's masquerading as a benefit. Look at every option that will allow you to maximize means do more than one thing. What are my options? What can I do at the property? Maximizing your property means how many options are there for me at this property? What can I do? Well, unless you know what your options are and you have somebody that can really interpret that correctly, from records to by right to the ADU thing, you won't know. And if you're happy with one, then you're good. You don't need to, quote, maximize. But to maximize, you can plan better. You can even, I don't know, do it and then have it approved and then sell the property with the plans approved. I've had clients do that. We added 3 units on this, was it 18-unit apartment building. He sold it with the plans done. The guy that's buying, he doesn't want to deal with the architectural hassle. It took us a year and 4 months to get it approved. So he's done, got a little money, paid for what he paid us, and he's done. The other guy that bought it, now he's going to improve it. It's going to be worth more. So it's kind of staging this whole process and who's spending all the money and what are the benefits. So you don't have to do the whole thing. Or you could pass it, keep it in the family. That's really nice. So that's really good. Now, something else. Getting tenants to vacate tenants. You can't do this work. Remember, housing department's job is to make sure that what was happening before the 98 law, SCEP law, was passed, what was happening then is not going to happen again. That is, where owners didn't care what disruption a tenant experienced. No water, no electricity, noise, dust, cockroaches, bugs, you name it, all infiltrating in their lifestyle. So now they have a phone call. They call the housing, guy's there within 72 hours, and he confirms that what is being said on the phone, writes them up, the owner, not them, the owner, and the owner is fully responsible for everything. Now, I have to be honest, this is not true. There are laws on the books that identified those problems created by a tenant, willful neglect and willful damage to an existing apartment building that they did. So who's to say what was there before they rented it to that tenant? Well, unless you have it documented, your word against the tenant's word, sorry, you lose. That's the way it goes. Inspector comes, his typical go-to problem solver is the owner. So whatever the tenant's complaining about, whatever the inspector finds wrong with that unit, the owner's going to get the bill to fix it. You're right. You shouldn't be blamed for everything. If he puts a hole in the door or the drywall in the bedroom, is that your fault because the guy has an anger problem? No, you should not be paying for that. But unless you identify that and you fight for that, housing is going to make it easy for housing. They're going to write it for the owner. Fix the hole in the bedroom, fix the hole in the door, get the locks to fix the broken glass, fix the screen. All you. And you say, I didn't do any of that. It was perfect when I rented it to him. How do you prove that? This is where you cover yourself. A video of every unit before it's occupied. A walkthrough with the tenant. You see this? You see that? Document it with the tenant present. Nice screen, yeah? Okay. Floor, any tears? No, it looks fine. Video's done. File it away, hope you never look at it. But if you run into problems later, you're going to want to look at it, and that'll be your answer to the problem. Now, dealing with inspectors, when they cite, you need to be present. To have your manager present, okay, you're saving time, I get it. But is the manager aware of the history prior to renting the unit, unless they have it documented or unless they know the condition it was rented in? You need to take an interest, a real heartfelt interest. What condition is the unit in when it's being rented? Because it's going to matter when things pop up later, either because they haven't paid, or either because they're too loud, or they're damaging your building at will and you have no control. Or they've identified that the unit they're living in is illegal. Now you're in trouble. So we stay away from trouble like that, okay? So getting another opinion is good. Getting multiple opinions. What do people think? This is your investigative work. What's out there? Don't listen to Zoran. Listen to somebody else. See what's out there. See what people know. Go with your heart. What do you do? The bottom line is you want to secure your future. This is your hard-earned money being invested. And I'm giving you an opportunity to add more value to that same building that you already own, so you can expand on that ownership and do that as a business model versus, doing it with the one building that you own, which is fine. One or many. The model needs to be the same. Take care of problems, know what issues you might have, and do everything legally, okay? And be involved in who you're renting it to and the condition that the apartment building is in all the time. Like, one thing that I will tell you is really important. From the street, when an inspector comes from the street, on the sidewalk, going up to your front door or to the gate, there's a sense of what this building is about. And the sense is created by what we see as an inspector. What do we see? If we see spare tires, motors, and leftover parts, furniture, bicycles stacked, things like that, it's not kept. Okay, there's a disorderly essence to that, and that is creating vermin to gather and hide under. That is creating dust. It's creating an unsightly situation for anybody walking on the sidewalk or the street to see what is there at the property. And any tenant you get is going to mimic that what they see when they got it. So mimic means they're going to not take care of it. And it's going to be very hard to draw a line where somebody is very disorderly to a semi-disorderly person. How do you now gauge, well, I like this person, they can be disorderly because they're nice to me, but the other guy, I don't like him because he's this or that, and he's a little more disorderly, so you draw a line on him. He's going to say, well, you're picking on me because what about the other guy? Huh? Oh, you like her, but you don't like me? Well, then you have a problem. And that's how this back and forth grows into something that's out of control. Then phone calls are made, and then city is more than happy to help to build their coffers by doing an inspection that came from a complaint, and then they charge you for it, and then they get bigger and you get frustrated, and then you move to Florida. Is that what you want? This is the best state in the country. There is no better place to be. Just take care of what you have. I know you guys that are already moved to Texas, good luck, stay there. You in Florida, I wish you luck with the alligators. I'm staying right here. Take care of what you have. Okay? Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you,
No, I'm good.
That's awesome.
I think I'm covered.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's planting the seeds, and people know that there's resources out there. There are people that are out there. And yeah, it's just good. I love the takeaways, asking the why question. That's awesome. And so we're going to have a time where we let people ask questions.
Good.
And before we do that, we're going to have a word from our sponsor,
Okay.
which is Livable. And they're on that member benefit tab.
Thank you.
On the AOAUSA.com. If you click on that, it's all the way at the bottom, right next to the property management software one that's AOA. But let's roll. Hey guys, go ahead and let's roll their a word from them.
Hello there, AOA members. This is Daniel Sharabi, CEO of Livable. We've been partnered with AOA now for some years to bring our ratio utility billing services to membership. And what really sets us apart, aside from quality service and taking great care of your residents and billing them back fairly and accurately for their fair share of utilities, is that we have no minimums. So that means if you've got a duplex or a single family home with an ADU, we're happy to help facilitate the utility bill back on your behalf. So we would love for you to get in touch and join all of these happy customers in using our service and celebrating conservation, but also increasing your net operating income. Livable.com/AOA is where you can find more information and ways to get in touch with us. Look forward to getting some time scheduled and to telling you more about the program and how you can do your part to promote conservation. All the best and enjoy the live stream. Hello there, AOA member.
All right, yeah, big thanks to Livable. Thank you so much. And man, big thanks to you, Zoran, for all of everything that you've been sharing with us today. And we're going to get into the questions. So if you're on the AOAUSA.com website, there's a blue help button at the bottom. And you can, if you click on that, you can enter a question in. They'll feed that to me. Obviously, YouTube, Facebook, you know what to do to ask questions. And if you got in kind of late, just wanted to mention next week we do have a calling campaign where we call city or whoever your representatives are. So city council member, county board of supervisors, the one that covers your district, and your assembly person. Definitely want to call at least those three. Every month we're going to do this until we have a breakthrough in Alameda, in Oakland, in Los Angeles, and there are many other things going on. If you're Ventura County, you need to be giving feedback as well, as you know that they're trying to start up a rent control thing there, and I'm not sure where it's at right now, but in every area, give feedback. If there's nothing going on, still give feedback and say, hey, thank you for making this place affordable for renters, because when you put on rent control, when you have these eviction moratoriums, all it does is tighten the market, make things harder for people that are trying to rent, besides the obvious fact that it's hard, that it's killing us. But again, they don't care about us so much, do they? They care more about the renters, and that's why we're making the appeal to them. And then also just to say, we had an awesome time in San Diego. Again, I wanted to say that it's in person. So when you're looking at the events, you please be careful to see, is this in person or is this something that's a live stream? And in-person events, they're free for AOA members 100% of the time. And if you're not a member, those events are $39. And again, San Diego was awesome, and you totally missed out if you didn't make it. And we do have an in-person in Oakland with landlord tenant attorney Richard Beckman on June 23rd. And then in July, we have 2 more seminars plus a AOA member orientation going on in Oakland and in San Jose area. So that's coming up. And there'll be more things that are going to be rolled out that are in person. So just be careful when you're doing all that. And great, so we're going to get to the questions. I know a lot of you were thinking just ADU, but what you got was a little different, and we didn't have ADU. This is all about ADUs in the advertising, and we definitely covered the things that we said we were going to cover. But you got a whole lot more than just an ADU talk. But we do have questions about ADUs. So here we go. Norman, does an ADU need a bathroom? And yes, it needs a bathroom.
Yes.
It needs a whole lot more than just a bathroom, right?
Well, it needs a kitchen.
Yeah, it does.
It needs a kitchen. It needs a cooking place. So, yes.
Right, and it doesn't need its own meter?
No.
Okay.
It does and it does not. Depending on the house meter, can it feed it, carry it? So it has to be asked. If you're asking the building department whether or not I need one, they're going to say yes. That's DWP will definitely want to put one of those in. But there's a way to do that. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And Batul, can an ADU be made or located in the front of the property? That's her first question.
Well, depending on what you're saying in front, there is a front setback. Front setback, every property has a setback, meaning you can't get any closer to the sidewalk than whatever the prescription is. Usually it's 20 feet, 25 feet, something in that range, where anything that encroaches further closer to the property line is called in the front setback, and nobody's going to be able to do that. Now, in the back, if you're talking about the back, now it's a different story, because the ADU law says 4 feet from the rear, 4 feet from the side. Now, if you're building it new, you can get away with 4 feet. Side and rear. If it's a garage that's already there, or workshop or something like that, 2 feet from the property line, you are allowed to keep it at that 2 foot mark. If it's 0, meaning the building is on the property line, you get to convert it as is. Now, it'll need a footing, it'll need a slab, but it can maintain that location, which is 0 or 1 or 2 feet, whatever it is. But if it doesn't exist, you want to build it 4 feet away from the side or the rear.
All right.
Yeah.
Next question, thank you. Don, can you tell me what is the biggest size I can get for an ADU for my home in Los Angeles? And I don't think it doesn't matter if it's Los Angeles or any other place. It's a state law.
The state law says 1,200 square feet max. Mm-hmm. Now, there are stipulations. Some neighborhoods have a condition on that. So 1,200 square feet is the size of this ADU that you can build.
Right. And then also you have your own lot size. And do you have space for
Correct.
it? So we're assuming that you do.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas, how do you prove number of units if built before city issued COFOs?
Say that again.
How do you prove number of units if built before city issued probably the certificates of occupancy? Yeah. So you had mentioned 1943. That's when they started issuing those certificates. And so how do you prove it? What do you do when it was built before that and there wasn't?
Well, to prove when the unit was built, this is for Tom, right?
Right.
Hi, Tom. You have to look at the record to see what that building record has as far as the date of that particular space, the date that it was built. If the permit is sort of vague and it doesn't address the date of when that structure or portion was constructed, then a good source would be the county tax assessor records. They talk about time, because the difference between building and safety records, 1, and 2, county tax assessor records, is that the county monitors improvements so they can tax you. And that's a federal law. to tax you based on the improvement that you made. They don't care if you got a permit for the addition. They don't care if you built a new structure called a huge whatever. They don't care. They just care about the improvement. So they identify the finish, they identify the fixtures, they identify the year that is written. So if you have the county records, you'll see in their scribbly handwriting the date that this assessment was made, and there will be a date associated with that. So that's the date that you would go by. And the earlier the date, the better, because then you show, prior to the C of O of 42, 43, 44, whatever that time is.
Okay, great. All right, BA, how many ADUs can we have with a single family home on a lot that is zoned R2?
Well, every lot in the city of the state of California can have one ADU. The R2 is 2 properties on a lot. So R2, you can have 2 units by right. Now, every property can add 1 ADU. So you want to add it to the front unit or the back unit, left unit or the back unit, whatever, you can add 1. That you can do on an R2, R1, or R3, whatever the case might be.
Great. All right, David, thank you for your question. How do parking requirements affect splitting existing units? That's a good question.
Splitting existing units. Okay, so if you have a building that has garages, it would depend on how many. This is by right we're talking about. We're not talking about the ADU. So by right, how many required parking spaces were needed to make those number of units that you currently have required to have on the lot? If it has 0 parking requirements, so it has to mention how many parking spaces are required for the number of units that you have. So what's happened is if you go to records that were the property was built in the 20s or the 30s, sometimes even in the 40s, there's very little mention of parking. Very little mention about required parking. So it's only when you get in the 50s and the 60s that they mention how many parking spaces are required. So whatever the number of spaces for parking are required for the units, if it's written required parking, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a space that you can park a car, but there's no record that talks about that space being required, then it's going to be 0. You're not going to be required to provide parking for those units. Now, if you want to split a unit, if you're splitting it under by right, then whatever new unit today being created today requires for parking is what you're going to have to provide as new parking for that. Now, if you have multiple units, say 10 units on the property, and whatever parking is required for that, and you don't have any more parking but you can add a unit based on the space that you have, you can provide 10% in bicycle parking. Now, this is by right, not ADU. So by right, you can replace 10% of your parking requirement with bicycles. And it takes 4 bikes for 1 car. So where do you put a bicycle? Well, you have to split it up between long-term and short-term parking. 2 feet by 6 feet is a space. So do that for long-term, short-term, and manage between all of them. You will have the required parking for the new units that you're adding by right.
Awesome. Okay. Our next question. Oh, and there was a second question on that other one. Maybe we'll get back to it. But Andres, have units built in the 60s. LA and SEP cited us for laundry, but laundry is original to the house. How can they say laundry is illegal if the original permits don't mention all the fixtures and details? So there's our question.
Okay, read that again, please.
Okay. They have units built in the 60s.
Okay.
LA and SEP cited us for laundry, but laundry is original to the house. how can they say that laundry is illegal if the original permits don't mention all the fixtures and details?
Well, now you're getting into an area where it's a little vague. It's vague because opinion varies from individuals. So if they saw this laundry room and the laundry room appears to have had new ABS plumbing, PVC plumbing, new cast iron plumbing, and it's visible, and you can see that it's newer than, say, 20 years ago, or cast iron, which would be 40 years ago. So then they can draw that conclusion that, it's illegal based on the construction. But if you have a permit that identifies the laundry room in that location, and it's just a repipe that was done to replace the bad rotting pipes that were there, and galvanized pipe that now needed to be replaced, then that's a different matter. And to do that, you have to really look into the records to see, and I say building records don't necessarily, 60s, may, probably not, show a laundry room being built. Now, the county would show something like that because that's an improvement. It's an amenity that the building has that is valued. So they tax you on that. So order the county tax assessor records and see if the laundry room is mentioned on the county records. If it isn't, and then it would be a matter of proving forensically, identifying methodology that it was used to build that laundry room. Is that period for 1960, or is that built in the last 10, 20 years ago? So that's really what you're talking about. So you have to kind of show, and they're saying it's easy for them to say illegal, need a permit. Well, can you do it legally today? Do you need new pipes? Do you need new gas lines? Can you build it today? I don't see why not. We need a laundry room, so why not? Then get a permit for it if you don't have it. Get a permit, 2 washers, washer and dryer, gas line. So it's going to be a permit for, if it's an enclosure, the walls and roof were added to enclose the washer and dryer, you need a permit for the structure. If the space already existed within the footprint of the building and you're adding washer and dryer, or multiple washers, multiple dryers, then the permit will be for the electrical and the plumbing, drain lines, hot and cold, for the use of the appliances, and not to forget gas. So it really depends what you have. So maybe a little more digging to find out what was there, and then maybe you'll achieve the result that you're looking for. Okay?
Great. All right. Ramesh, does ADU, which is added in extra space, need to have a separate utility meter?
Does ADU,
which is added in extra space, need to have a separate utility meter?
ADU added, so no. ADU metered, we're talking about gas, we're talking about water, we're talking about electricity, can be fed of the other structure. You have to ask for that. And it has to be sized enough to support the loads that this new unit creates. That's all. It's a matter of safety. So the breakers are big enough. Maybe the sub panel is locally located, so the occupant of that space can flip a switch and turn off all the power, or within close proximity. So there might be a little difficult to achieve, maybe inside or maybe right outside the door, so you can get to the power and turn it off if need be. Yeah.
Great. All right. Follow-up question from BA. What I meant is that if I have 2 structures, can the front unit be an ADU? And I think you said yes. It just you just need to have the setback be in compliance with setback.
Yeah. So you can have in the front building or the back building, an ADU, it really doesn't matter. And I was thinking if you were going to add it to the building, and if you're adding a structure to an existing building, is the addition of that encroaching in the front setback. This is a kind of a zone you stay away from because the city doesn't want, you know, these protruding additions to, you know, encroach on the front setback line. They want to see the sort of homogenized look, so you don't have all these contraptions being added to the front affecting the look on the street. In the back, well, that's another thing. That's why I said it wouldn't apply. But yeah, you can do it in front or back.
Great. And then mom and pop, mom no pop. Do you have a referral to a Northern California company similarly qualified to the Windrich Group? And I think you may know somebody. Did you know someone up north that?
Do we have any referrals in Northern California? We did some projects, San Luis Obispo County, but I wouldn't say I have, like, north. How far north?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, you know, San Jose or Alameda County. We have a lot of members in those areas.
Yeah, well, we can certainly look at the possibility of doing something up north for you. The state law would apply. The local law that you're faced with would also apply. We can get that information, so we can give you some advice or at least guide you in the right direction, and maybe even do the job. I don't know.
All right. And Thomas, can a guest room be converted to an ADU?
All right. Good question. My question to you is my favorite question. Why? Why do you want to convert a guest room to an ADU? Remember, the ADU is a freebie. Anywhere you want it, in garage, laundry room, rec room, where do you want it? It's yours. Figure it out. But a guest room? So now, what are you calling a guest room?
Okay.
Because a guest room is a legal space. And if your building is older than 1963, you can have that unit. Here, it's a free gift. You can convert it to a unit. Add a kitchen, have a bathroom, whatever you want. It's a free thing. Do it. I mean, not free of cost, but free of zone. You can add it legally. Okay.
All right. So yeah, it just depends what you're wanting there, and we can keep going back and forth. All right, Celeste, I have a mixed use property in Sacramento County, 2 residential apartment buildings, a 7-unit and 1 former house being used as an office on 1 lot. Can I use the office as a single family home without any permits or approvals? I don't need to change anything. It's already has bathrooms and kitchen. I just did cosmetic changes like adding closets and closing in doorways.
Good question. This is where we're getting slivers of information that is very, very relevant. So you have a mixed-use building. You have units and you have a house. Is it all residential use, or do we have a commercial portion dedicated to the house? You're using it as an office, but is it legally a house? That's a question. So your records will identify that. If it's legally a commercial space, you can't convert it to a house without converting the use from office, commercial to residential use, or the other way around. If it's commercial, you can't just make it into a house. You have to change the use. And there are laws that apply to that conversion. It's called change of use. You have to comply properly, safely, from one use to another. So which one is it? You have to do some digging on that.
All right. Well, thank you, Celeste, for that question. And David, what is the typical timeline to get an ADU approved, and what are the typical architectural engineering costs?
It's really a what are you doing? Because an ADU, in your mind, could be a box, 12 by 12, and in my mind could be a 3-story contraption with a cantilevered deck. What are you talking about? You have to be specific. This is an ADU cost, house cost. This is not buying parts for a car. This is designing something that you want, and that affects cost greatly.
So
ideas are dime a dozen. The cost of executing that idea is where the cost comes into play. Structurally speaking, physically speaking, how costly is it? So
let's say they have a big lot. There's room for a 1,200 square foot single story ADU. What would that? Do you have any? If it's a little more specific like that, would that help?
Again, we're trying to cookie cutter a solution or a cost that affects an ADU. Okay, so if you say, $180 a square foot, which is an old price, so say be on the protected side, $200 a square foot. What can I get out of that? Well, do the math. $200 a square foot, how big is your house? Do the math. That's the cost of your house. Average. Sure. You can have a good contractor give you one price. You can have a fair contractor give you another price. And you can have a guy that needs a job really bad price. You're going to benefit. Now, are you going to benefit? Where are you going to lose? You're going to lose in quality, materials used, or the execution of the job. So be careful. When you talk about price, you have to know what that impacts. It impacts time and quality of work and the execution of work. And if they're not licensed and they throw a number at you, be careful. They're not responsible. You need accountability here. This is big money you're talking about, and ideas that you want need to be incorporated into that. Or why don't you just buy a kit? Companies make a kit, you drop it on your lot, build it in pieces. You don't have to worry about, you pay a fixed price on the delivery of the material. Just get a contractor to assemble it, put it on a footing, call it an ADU. I don't like those. Fabrication, formaldehyde, chemicals, it's not my cup of tea. But hey, if it's your cup of tea, then it's your fixed cost. You'll know the price before you even start the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. And Andres, he has a 7,500 square foot lot in LA with 4 existing units. Can we rearrange existing space and add 1 or 2 units by right? And this one, you'd have to see it, right? You'd have to be able to see it to be able to answer that question.
Andre, what is the zone for that lot? Number one question. Once you identify the zone, then the division will be the number of units you can have for the zone that you're in. Divide that number into 7,500 and see what the result is. If you are 4 existing units is more than what you can have with that calculation, then your overdensity means that you can only add 1 ADU, because that's a gimme by the state. Here's a freebie, right? But if you can have 6 units and you only have 4, that's the example I used in the talk, where you can add 2 by right. Just need parking. ADU is a freebie. You can add it and you won't need to worry about parking. But adding it by right, parking will be required. So find the zone.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Those are the questions that we have. And Andres,
Perfect.
if you get back to us before we close this thing out, if that message makes it to us, then we can do it. But you can do the math. And I like how you've given us some resources that we can use. Looking into the property tax, looking at those records, and just the importance of having any kind of record, as opposed to just, well, look at this picture.
Records are really important, because
so that's great.
Nobody can argue that. At the city, plan checkers, supervisors, you can't argue records.
Right. And I think we'll do other live streams, and with with Zoran, where we can go over maybe some of the things that are common traps, like the screens or the broken windows, things like that get people in trouble. There's so much. He has such a wealth of information, and so we'll continue to do other things with Zoran and keep you guys out of trouble. This is one that's really going to make you money. We also like to keep people out of trouble, keep you out of court, because that's just a headache, right? So anyway, thanks again for everything, and remember, guys, to call on Tuesday. Last Tuesday of every month, we're just going for it. And we thank you, because it's all about a grassroots movement. And if you're like, Jeff, I don't know what to say, it's on that political action page. If you're like, I don't even know who my representatives are, by the end of the day, we'll have that link up there too. And you would just type in your address and it'll pop out everybody down from president all the way down. And anyway, again, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.